Yes, guys, and good evening, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy Dave for your second upload in a day. That's twice running now, so hopefully you're enjoying all the content. But we are here this evening to give you sort of what's going on, a bit of club news, bit of transfer news in and around. Not much, so we're not going to be here that long. But as always, we want you guys to participate with us as we go along. Put your thoughts in the chat, but we'll check in and see how Jacko is. Jack, how are you, my man?
Doing good, Dave. Thanks for putting this together. Looking forward to responding to any bit of the news that you were able to dig out from wherever it came from, and giving our thoughts and our responses to it. And look forward to this.
Yeah. Look, there's the small bit out there, small bit happening, more sort of outgoings than incomings, I would say. So not exciting in that regard. But we have a bit. Let's just welcome some people in quickly. We've got Adrian Shaka. Good evening, my man. First in, as always, how are you keeping? Good to see you in the building. We also have Terry Betts. I'm hearing that Madison is back. It's great to hear the squad is going to have 4 days off. So deserved. We'll get into a little discussion on that as well. Terry Beats, is it the right decision? You know, a lot of other clubs have chosen to do the warm weather training camps. Joe says, good evening. Good evening, Joe. Good to see you in the building. Dermotron, too late. You're late with this one. I'm not having that. This has been out there for ages. He says, big up, guys. Hearing edgy deal is almost done. Come on, you Spurs. That's out there a while now, Dermot. You're too late to give me that info. Ash P, good to see you. Hi, Dave and Jack, listening like you're the television. Absolutely, really appreciate it. By the way, where were you on the fan show yesterday? Got you a lot of guests, but you weren't one of them. Make sure you come back and have a conversation with us one of the days. Good to see you, Ash. We also have John Tucker. Big up, guys. Big up, John. Great to see you. Spurs GC TV. Evening, guys. As always, it's great to see you. Spurs GC TV. We have Ricky C says, come on, you Spurs. We also have Ricky Nato joining us. Big up, brothers. And all my Spurs family. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, Ricky Nato. Good to see you as always. Tyler says, hey, Jack and Dave. Hope you boys are doing well. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, Big D. Really do appreciate that. We're doing well, my man. Donovan Oosterreicher, Madison, return imminent. Solomon back, a fully fit defence and midfield. We're 3 games away from a fully fledged Spurs side since October. Hang in there, people. The sky's the limit. Come on, you Spurs. You know what? On that, Donovan, sort of sitting there thinking today, I've got 2 videos that I'm going to do coming up. One about Tottenham's next 5 fixtures, how sort of important they are for the second part of the season and where it can sort of leave us in good stead. And the other one is also, what is Tottenham's best 11 when everybody is fit and available? Feel free to put them in here now, but I will be putting out some sort of stream on that tomorrow, so look out for that. It'll be an interesting one. Of course, as you know, I'll always give reasons why I'm picking them, of course. But let me know whether you disagree when it comes out. Oliver 243 says, big up, lads. Big up, Oliver. Good to see you. King Hoddle says, good evening. Reg will not make it under Ange, even as a squad player. He isn't robust enough to fit the system and intensity of our play, and I doubt he would be able to invert effectively. Well, look, we'll get on to Reguillon now in just a couple of minutes, King Hoddle, and we'll have a good conversation. I'm actually going to star that one, my man. We'll come back to it. We also have IrishHotspur, great name. Big up, boys. Big up, Hosier. Great to see you. Along with Mary W. Best content on YouTube. Really appreciate that, Mary. Really do appreciate that. Marky Cook is also joining us. Big up, Dave and Super Jack. Big up, Mark. THFC. To be fair, Dave, I did say it on my show earlier, by the way. Yeah, but Dermo, that's been out there all day. That's what I'm saying, my man. Scooter Reacts says, morning, Dave, Jack. Big up, all. Getting rid of a few of these guys we don't need is a positive. Come on, you Spurs. Absolutely spot on there. Sebas Wolf, great to see you. Big up, boys. Big up, my man. Great to see you. And then Ash also says, I'm ill, so I couldn't do the fan show even though I really wanted to. I'm sorry to hear that. And I really do wish you the best of luck and full recovery. And hopefully it's very, very quick. Community is a better place with you in it than you out of it for sure. Big up Derek Smith as well. Great to see you in the building. He says, evening, gents. And our boy Ashley Phillips starring at Plymouth Argyle at the weekend. Those who told me he wasn't ready, take that back. Paul Brown also says, good evening, Dave and Jack. Hopefully all's well. Like, share, sub. And as always, come on, you Spurs. Big up, Paulie Brown. Great to see you. Along with Dragging These Nuts. Big good day, mate. Good day, my man. Good day. And then Cat Spur. What's up, lads? Come on, you Spurs. Big up, Cat Spur. Along with Gabrielle One. We're peaking at the right time. I would hope so. And also George Carrara says, watching Asian Cup. Poor Aussie ref like Gillette. Look, that guy, don't even get me started on him, George. I'm trying to stay away from referees of late. And then United Spurs of America says, big ups, you all. And also we've got Nick, flat cap, massive represent. Big up, Nick, my man. Great to see you in the building. Look, we're going to get into it now. As you can see, we've prepared a lot of graphics to sort of go through a lot of the news for you guys. So as we go through it, part of the deal is we want you to put your thoughts in the comment section below. Not below, sorry, beside us. It's different. We're live. We're not pre-recording. Feel free to smash that like button. Really pushes us out in that algorithm if you want more people to avail of the content that you really, really enjoy. And if you want to support your boys, feel free to grab a channel membership or gift one out to others if you want to do that. Why not? It's January. And also feel free to send in a super chat with your thoughts as we go along. Now, of course, we get it. It's tough times. It's January. It's after Christmas. Everyone's more or less sort of hanging on there until the end of the month, aren't they? So the least we can do is ask you just to put your comments in, guys. But look, we will get into it, Jacko. And the first bit of news we have, and of course that was brought out yesterday, is Werner and Dragusin's legacy numbers. As you can see, Timo Werner's 881 and Dragusin is 882. By the way, I did say yesterday on Jacob's channel, if he scores, because he looks like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, we're going to call him Radu Dragusovic. Absolutely beautiful name. Jack will definitely approve of that. He loves an itch. But obviously, the legacy numbers are given out every time that a player makes his debut. It was introduced. It's a new sort of kit initiative to highlight the club's long history and the number of players that have featured for the club since its first competitive senior game in 1894. The Legacy Numbers initiative will see an additional number stitched onto the kits of each first team player with a senior cap. Jack, I think it's a pretty cool idea, to be honest with you. You know, it sort of links the current Spurs squad to, the history and that. And also when they come in here, it puts in their mind straight away that they can form a legacy. You know, they're here. They're part of history. They're part of legacy. Forge your own part, right?
No, it definitely does. It kind of sort of reminds some of these players that this is sort of, a massive football club, and it is an honor to wear this shirt, and you will be recorded into the history, and it's not going to be, just sort of a stepping stone or anything like that for you. You are playing for a massive club in Tottenham Hotspur, so you will go down into the history books. It's just, what sort of history, what sort of legacy do you want to make for yourself? That way they maybe give you like that sort of, subtle reminder that you are, in this sort of long line of great Spurs players. This is where you stand in that long list. And how about you stand out yourself, and how about you make a legacy yourself from it? I actually really, think it's a nice touch actually by sort of the club. I can understand how it gets a little silly with like certain players and maybe, at the club. But at the end of the day, I actually, if you were to be a bit optimistic, you could say that sort of could minimize some of that happening in the near future with sort of these sort of subtle reminders of how important it is to play for this club, that you even get your own number in this sort of kind of regard. You get a real individual kind of recognition. And I like 881. That looks a little nicer than 882, just sort of kind of written out, to be honest. If I were to pick, a number that looks just sort of just genuinely aesthetically nice, I would say 881 does. But when it comes to Dragusevic, it's a clever one, Dave. But I think with the Romanians, there are plenty of like Escus, or kind of like Popescu. So maybe it would be like Dragonescu or something like that, if it's a Romanian man. But I do love having at least, I wonder how many legacy numbers, include guys with man buns. So maybe only 15 or so, you could say, maybe in Spurs history, have a legacy number with a man bun associated with it.
Bale is one of them anyway, for sure. Just on Werner, hopefully 881 isn't the amount of misses he's going to have between now and the end of the season. Hopefully he doesn't hopefully he doesn't think that's the number he has to live up to in terms of misses. But look, I think it's a good idea just to psychological wise when a signing comes in here. If he's the right sort of guy with the right psyche, he'll look at that, have a deep think about and say, how do I want my legacy? And he'll try and envision it and work hard towards it. From a psyche point of view, I think it's brilliant. Sonny Talk Spurs, big up, Son Aldo. Good to see you in the building, sir. And hopefully you are keeping well. Also, Calavius, great to see you in the building as well, my man. Just quickly on this Terry Beach note, we're not going to be anywhere near with the way we operate. We're nowhere near in touching distance. I sort of said this last week. With Arsenal, they're sort of very much on the brink, and they have to now sell before they buy. And I wonder which one of these little projects that he wants to give away. I doubt he doesn't really want to give away any, to be honest with you. He's probably sitting there crying right now, Salt Bay drying up his tears out in Dubai. But what I will say is that we're now challenging for a title, and we still have about another 200-300 million to go before we're even anywhere near in breach. So it means we can sort of excel ourselves a lot quicker than Arsenal and hopefully put ourselves back above them very, very quickly in that pecking order. Look, there's a lot more to come out about this, but we're absolutely nowhere near it. In fact, we're in the right position to try and capitalize on clubs for players who are in that position, especially homegrown players, because they're the ones that really, you sell a homegrown player, it takes it off the financial fair play for some reason, especially if it's a kid that's come through the academy. So we're actually in prime position to be able to take advantage of it. And believe it or not, if anyone actually goes to Tottenham Hotspur website, I sent this to Shawnee last Saturday when he was doing the stream about it when it first sort of broke or came out. And he didn't see it to after. But at the very bottom, underneath Daniel Levy's description of Chairman, it says like that he's sort of like a protagonist in making sure that this was going to happen. You know, the financial fair play and football finance governance for football clubs. So you would say he's sort of starting to get his wish on that now, Terry, but we have no problems with it whatsoever. We also have Roy Viking in the house. Big up Roy the Viking, my man. Absolute legend. Says, big up, boys. How much is the buyback for Kane? I actually think he will be back next summer. Look, I don't think there is a buyback option for Harry Kane. I think it's an option that if Bayern Munich were to accept a bid from another Premier League team, that Spurs have sort of first option if they want to match that and go in for Harry Kane, or they have to be told about it. But I don't think there's an actual number on the buyback option. Look, do we want Kane back this summer? Look, I'd absolutely love it to happen. You know, I think he would propel us on to winning multiple trophies next year with everything, with all the sort of right pieces of the puzzle in behind them. Now that we've got that defense and that midfield sorted out, and that's something I've always argued to get done. Why Harry Kane was here, because if you let him go, you struggle in the finishing department. Now, interestingly enough, we've actually got the most touches in the opposition box this season, but we are nowhere near clinical enough, and that sort of highlights that.
Yeah.
So, we got a lot of touches, but we're not taking our chances, Jack. So, look, personally, I don't think Kane will be back here next summer. I think it's just an article, a few days off, a couple of journalists trying to make some clickbaity stuff. But I do think we'll probably go for someone in the summer, depending on how Werner gets on, Jack, right?
Yeah, I think we could be. We were on that kind of early, though, some of the stats surrounding, like, the fact that Spurs forwards can't really complain about sort of the chances created sort of in this team. Like, we have some of the most shot creating actions, some of the most key passes, some of the most, like you say, touches in the opposition box, some of the most touches inside the final third of, the opposition as well. Like, it's just kind of just so many different ones you could pick out when it comes to creativity. And it'd be nice to have more clinical forwards, or guys that also maybe are more willing to sort of think for themselves, I think, and sort of sometimes the decision making, because it feels like our players do often sort of panic, or maybe just don't even know themselves like what they're going to be doing before it happens. They sort of seem to just be deciding until it's almost too late. It feels like in the final third, whether they want to cross, whether they want to go for it themselves. And, we've at times paid the price for it. Luckily, I think we create enough chances. And when we do have a rock solid defense, we can get away with it. But it's been a frustration. I mean, Kane coming back in the summer, I just don't really see it unless Eric Dyer, I guess, pulls off that many howlers as the fourth choice center back that, he drives them back to England, or maybe Kane ends up winning, a Champions League or something like that. And, or perhaps, I guess the Bundesliga has been more exciting than usual, so I wouldn't see why he wouldn't be that disappointed, with what's been happening so far. Like, they haven't really been the Bayern of usual so far this season. So I think if they were to win the Bundesliga, yes, it'd be sort of boring that Bayern wins it, but it wasn't exactly easy, depending on how you look at Leverkusen this season. So I think if he wins everything, maybe he'd want to consider coming back. And I do feel like Spurs probably have a fixed fee of some kind, actually, with probably Bayern, or some sort of like fixed maybe negotiation where, like, yeah, if he's if he wants to leave, if he's disgruntled, Spurs can sort of step in maybe ahead of other people, in negotiations. But I just don't see that happening. But it's fun to speculate, though.
Well, yeah, it is fun to speculate. What I will say, Roy, is please let us know why you actually think he will be back. That's what you say in the second half. Let me know, the feelings behind that, or the thoughts behind that. That'd be absolutely unbelievable. Big up, Roy. We have Dr. Tottenham says, I'd love to be AAA. That advert, that was brilliant. Ash P says, Dragonescu sounds like a Pokemon. And then King Huddle says, the washed up Jose got sacked. Gotta love it. Look, I was actually only saying this to Jack earlier on. Personally, I think it was harsh. You got the Europa Conference League and a Europa League final back to back. Okay, things have tailed off a bit this season. But look, you know, I reckon you might see him out in Dubai next. King had one last payday. Why not? Get the band back together. Paul Markey, big up, Paul. Hopefully you're keeping well. Sorry, he says we are looking for a proven six, so why not go back for Kessie, who is released at the moment? He'd be the key to the next level. Jack Frank Kessie, you know, we've been rumored with him for quite some time. You know, if you go back a couple of windows ago, we were constantly linked with this guy. Is there any chance you think we could bring him into Tottenham now, or do you think that chance has sort of sailed away?
I'm not sure if that chance has ever sailed away, right? If I'm not mistaken, he moved to the Saudi league,
Yeah.
right? And players seem to be very, sort of back and forth on whether they're really enjoying it or not, and willing to accept, the extraordinary pay for what might be, a huge sort of, I guess, culture shock in terms of a lot of different kind of manners. But Kessié, if he is disgruntled like a lot of other people, maybe he could end up, looking for a
Mm,
Premier League move, because that would be the complete opposite of what's going on in the Saudi Pro League. Maybe he's eager to get to some real actual football and some real actual, kind of competitive sort of matches of some sort. I
mm,
personally might disagree once again, though, with Paul Markey when it comes to the profile of the player. I feel like Kessié, for me, more of a box to box kind of player that might sort of help out, and compete with Sar
mm,
maybe in his position. I don't always see him in a number six role, just because I don't exactly see him as always the guy that's really dictating the tempo or sort of being able to help, kind of relieve the
mm,
center backs and start moves from deep, whether it's spraying passes or carrying the ball
mm,
forward. He's a great ball carrier, but not usually from, I think, a number six position. Usually I've seen other players sort of play that kind of next to him or sort of with him, not usually
mm,
just him alone. But Paul Markey, I did have my sort of eyes or ears or whatever is the right sort of body part perk when Cristante was rumored with us from Roma. I think he's actually a very fine player, and I think he's definitely a true number six in just sort of how he dictates the game from that sort of deeper role.
mm,
And I really love him. So I'd actually be I'd be really satisfied if actually Spurs were to look at him as sort of a number
mm.
six option.
Look, Paul Markey, for me personally, my man, I think, yeah, there's a lot of players probably up for grabs from Saudi now because they've gone out there. A lot of what you're hearing back is how piss poor the standards really are. They didn't believe the league was that low of a quality, you know, and that even in their time frame being there, if they stay there and see out the contracts, that they're not really going to be able to drag it to any sort of standard whatsoever. There's a lot more infrastructure behind the scenes that needs to be put in place. So a lot of them now are looking to get out. But I also feel they're also looking for the next big payday. You know, they were very quick to leave their clubs, go out there for a payday. They, you know, they haven't been playing at any sort of intensity. You'd argue that the intensity in training over there is completely different to what it is over here. So any of them could even think about coming back here in January. Are you really going to see the best of them between now and the summer? I'd argue not. For me personally, I'd rather stay away from any player that went out there because it shows where they're at. They're more about the money than they are sort of progressing their career. Someone like Kessie, he was fine at AC Milan. You know, he had big moves lined up everywhere. Could have played in, picked more or less any Champions League team he wanted, and he chose to take the bag. So for me, it just shows the mentality of a lot of these guys. And I get it. It's hard when that sort of money is being waved in front of you. But we want players that have ambition, like Dragusin turned down more money at Bayern Munich and came to our football club. And I'd rather players like that. It's about character, and I don't think Ange will take many that's gone out to Saudi. You know, he didn't take up the option for Jota, did he? So, you know, I think he's going to steer well away from that league. It's more, I get it. He's a good player. He was a great player, you know, in that six role and stuff like that. But we need character, and that's the main thing that Postecoglou looks for. Player I'm going to put out there towards you, Paul Markey. Give me some feedback, please, my man. Kefram Turan, Nice. Unbelievable. Everything we need. Destroyer, good on the ball. Great engine. Absolutely everything. Big yourself up, Paul Markey. Give me feedback on that name. Just a quick welcome into some more people. Tony Merrington, great to see you, sir. The AFCON games are really poor. Look, I think, do you know what? You look at the World Cup, some of the group stages games in the World Cup and that as well weren't filled out either. It's more going into the knockout stages. I think you'll really see the tournament pick up. But I do understand what you're saying. I've watched a couple of games here myself, and a lot of stadiums are empty. Dr. Tottenham says we're 400 million away from financial fair play. Daniel Sandoval, great to see you, sir. Robert Dixon, 22 million 2.2 million in debt, nowhere close to financial fair play. Now that's what was listed on financial fair play table in the website. I'm sure it's higher, but not even close to worry about. Absolutely spot on there. Future music, hey lads, you got me thinking. Does Bale have 2 legacy numbers? No, do you know what? That's something actually I'll look into. I wouldn't say he would, but I'll look into it, my man, and I'll come back to you in an answer. Future music. Big up Tyler Lilly. Hello, David and Jack. Great to see you in the building. John Tacker says Kane for AAA. Effing hell, great to see you in the building as well. Welcome in to Tony Demoski. Kane is the cherry on top of the cake. We score 50% more goals with Kane. Something I tried to highlight in the summer, my man. I tried to highlight it. Look, Richarlison's doing a good job at the minute, though. That's what I will say. He's doing a fine job at the minute. Big up, big pants as well. Luke Mayo is joining us back in as well, along with Charlie Rogers. Good to see you. Shawnee Maddox says, love the new Academy video update. Big up, my man. Really appreciate that. I'll have a little conversation quickly on that at the end. Big up, Killian, as well. Great to see you in the building. Big T says he doesn't want any player that went to Saudi because they don't go there to play and enjoy football. They went there for the money, and those aren't the players I want. Fair point. And then Paul Hotspur, big up, Paul. Great to see you in the building. Sorry, says Jacko's Richarlison sure ain't looking too shabby now. Prue.
Yeah, it was a hard one to look at on plenty of occasions last season, even at the beginning of this season, to look at a Richarlison shirt. But now it's probably one of the proudest things I've ever probably bought, from the Spurs team shop, Paul. And it's a nice one to run around with, kind of get into my pigeon mode on my, occasional runs and workouts and everything. But yeah, Richarlison, just somebody who I always wanted to do well, kept the faith in. At times, was willing to engage in the conversations of whether he was going to make it or not, and probably did sway, occasionally towards maybe it's not going to work out. But I always had, definitely a huge soft spot, always was rooting for him, this whole time. And somehow, he's perhaps turned it around. I don't know how he did. He did it at the time when I really, really least expected it as well, but it was at the right time.
Big up, Paul. Big up, Paul. I had to, at one stage, I had to drag Jack back in. He's ready to leave. I had to drag him back in, Paul. Roy Viking getting back to us. He says, Levy said, of course, there's a buyback clause in the contract when he was speaking at Cambridge. I think he wins the Bundesliga and wants Shearer's record and win the Premier League. Which Spurs, do you know what? Look, I do think he would definitely be returning to the Premier League. He will look to break that record maybe before he hangs up his boots. The big question is how long does he leave it? Inevitably, I think, potentially, hopefully he comes back to Spurs. If we're in a very good position by then, he's got his family live in London. He's building that house right beside Chelsea's training ground, Coburn and stuff like that. So I do think, the plan will be to come back to London for sure. And look, maybe he will be back at Tottenham. I just don't think this summer. I think next summer or maybe beyond that, you're probably looking at that. But I don't think it'll be this summer at all, right? But great point, though. Absolutely great point, my man. Big yourself up, brother. Look, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him come back and break the record. You've no idea, my man. You've no idea. Matt Spurs says, Dave, you're right. I said before, Ange won't go for players that sold for Saudi. Look, could be proven wrong on that. Let's wait and see. That's just my feeling on it. Also, welcome in Shamu. Welcome in the Mr. Johnny Stokes. Big up, John Boy. Great to see you in the building as well. And also Archibald as well. So I was desperate to play for Senegal. Good for him. Unlike Onana. Look, joke that he even got to stay, to be honest with you. Absolute joke, my man. But look, it is what it is. But look, we'll keep this moving. We'll move on to the next piece of news. And just briefly, Son Aldo has been named Asia's best player yet again for 7 years on the trot. Absolutely outstanding for Sonny. The amount of respect and following that he has all around the continent is unbelievable. Not just from his country, all around the continent. And what a servant to Tottenham Hotspur as well. Great to see him getting recognition where it's deserved and picking up awards. Jack, anything you want to say on that before we move on to the next piece?
I mean, I think it's such a ridiculously large continent, as well, like Asia, with so many countries and so many players that could, potentially win that award, and to win it this many times, it's sort of like a almost annoying dominance. But thank God, Sonny's our own. It's kind of like Leo Messi, sort of with the Ballon d'Ors, with so many times in a row, just this guy winning it. And to be fair to Sonny, he's kind of actually made himself more or less a living and probably forever kind of icon, I think, of sort of kind of Asian football. Really, it feels like people that aren't even from Korea sort of see him as just this legitimate source of kind of I don't know. Yeah, maybe just legitimacy. Like they see him as like the sign of a real star, like from that continent. And whether they're from that continent or whether they might be from like sort of a, let's say, not typical, sort of nation like Brazil, Germany, England, etc. They might sort of see Sonny as a guy to maybe
Mm,
identify with at least a little bit because he had to carve his path, kind of maybe harder from, maybe than other people have to, right? Like to
mm,
come from that far away, in the world, I think you really have to be a special player, but then you also have to have a special attitude to be able to
mm,
get to this sort of level. So, fair play to
mm,
Sonny. It's almost like Leo Messi type dominance, I
mm,
bet. It's almost getting probably a little annoying
mm,
maybe to other Asian players.
mm. And it's also, yeah, you're spot on. It's the longevity of how long he's been at that high level. It's absolutely unbelievable. Luke Mayo says, what an ambassador for Spurs, world-class gentleman, a great ambassador for Tottenham Hotspur, absolute great ambassador. And Adnan is saying Dyer 666. It felt like it for a few years. I'm not going to lie on that one. We've got one more bit of club news to bring you, and then we will bring you the latest from Fabrizio Romano on Sergio Reguilon, which you'll be maybe excited to hear. But Postecoglou has told the players they will be given a period of longer rest during each 12 days without a game to recover their bodies. They will be given Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off before returning to prepare for the FA Cup against Man City, where they'll return to action and obviously get their plan in action. And that comes via Alistair Gold. Jack, what do you make of the decision for Ange to give the players the time off rather than bring them on warm weather training? Because there are clubs that have used this sort of mid-term Premier League winter break,
Yeah.
if that's what you want to call it, to take their players out of sort of the pressure cooker environment, bringing them on a bit of warm weather training. What's your thoughts on that? Did we do the right
Um,
decision here?
I think it is the right decision. Part of the reason why managers do that, though, is also maybe for tactical sort of kind of work and kind of things that they can do on the training ground in sort of a closed environment where the players are sort of forced to be focused, right? They're being taken away from their usual lives and routines
Mm,
and get to sort of have like real tactical training, sort of in warm weather environment where everybody can sort of feel like they can best learn from the coach and work on some things that maybe they've been struggling with and I think a lot of teams do end up doing that because, of course, at some stage in the season, you might run into problems or obstacles and need to work on it and sort of on the training ground. Do Spurs really have that, like compared to maybe other teams, like on a sort of a tactical level as much? I wouldn't say so. Like Spurs are sort of just been struggling with just having just a long medical, sort of injury list at this moment in time. And that's been
mm,
really the only reason I think that's held us back, not really as much tactical reasons or issues that Ange has had. So maybe it's just a time for sort of players to rest their hammies, don't get injured as much.
mm.
And also as well, maybe Ange Postecoglou doesn't even trust the medical staff. If he were to do training, right
Yeah,
now he
yeah.
fears maybe another injury would happen if he were to do some extra training. So he's decided to take the cautious approach. And James Madison gets to engage in whatever, snooker or whatever, sort of, darts throwing or, he seems to be a
Yeah.
guy that really travels about when it comes to this sort of time off, So I wonder where he goes. Who gets to go to the coolest sort of convention or the coolest sort of event over this extended period? Someone said everybody has to see what Emerson Royale does. I definitely will be checking in on that.
Look, the players have the time off so they can go and do whatever they want. I reckon a lot of them would probably use it to maybe catch a bit of sun somewhere. But what I love about it, even if they do go to catch a bit of sun, I know some people will say, well, why can't you just combine the two, give them sun and some warm weather training? With the pressure that's been on a lot of these players, all last season, some of them were here before that, some of the players that have come here this year, the fact that now you're in a title race, you've got an FA Cup, and you've got some big games coming up that can sort of dictate how your season's going to go. I think it's absolutely a masterstroke of man management by Ange Postecoglou to give these guys some time off. Ange Postecoglou is a big family man himself. At Celtic, he used to encourage the players to bring the wives and the kids into the training complex and stuff like that, so everyone could get to know each other and stuff like that. So he understands the importance. And you also hear, like, I've listened to a lot of players where, former players who've done podcasts and stuff like that. And they all say, sometimes the last thing you want is just being away on these things. You're already tired, maybe carrying knocks and stuff like that. You just want some time off, spend a little bit of time with your family, recuperate, refresh, take a bit of a mental break from everything, refresh that way as well, and come back ready to hit the ground running. And one thing I can guarantee you is every single one of these players will run their absolute bollocks off into the ground when they get back. And I think it was needed as well. You hear Ange Postecoglou after the game praising the effort that these guys have put in, saying that the squad is injury, ridden, it's battered, it's bruised, and stuff like that. I think it's absolutely perfect to give people time off, let them recover a little bit, stop, making them train through knocks and stuff like that. I think it's an absolute masterstroke by Ange Postecoglou on that. What the people in the chat think, let's see. Tyler says Saudi winner, let's go, put 10 on it after they went 1-0 down. Love that. Shamu says that was the funniest thing I've heard today. King Huddle says we have enough 8. Bentancur, Sarge, Gio, Madison, Kulu. We only have one truly orthodox 6 in Basuma. Look, I'd argue that Bentancur could play there, King Huddle, but I don't understand what you're saying. F and Hell says hit that like button, guys. Big up. We also have Farrell 27. Would it be pretty to play a handball with Brentford over Reguillon? Look, we're going to get onto that now because that deal is more or less done. And Adrian Schrocker says, I don't agree with the players being given days off when you could be doing light training, for example, practicing corners, free kicks, and doing throw-ins and drills. You can imagine if Adrian had a soccer team, he'd be, on a horse and cart behind them, whipping them with whips to get them to run faster and stuff like that. Big up, Adrian. Look, respect everyone's opinion, everyone sees it a bit differently. And also, big up, Neil George. Good to see you guys. Over 200 in-house, guys. Keep smashing that like button. That'd be absolutely awesome. And feel free to send in your talking points or stuff like that, questions if you got for us in the chat, and why not make it a super chat to help support everything we're doing. Now, just quickly, actually, I'm going to share in my screen because this is what came out earlier, but there is an update since then, so I'm actually just going to bring it up for you guys just to prove, that, I ain't lying, that is actually out there. And it's from Fabrizio Romano. He says, Sergio Reguilon to Brentford. Here we go. Final green light. Just arrived after verbal agreement between the clubs. Loan move with no option to buy clause, as Sergio will be back to Tottenham at the end of the season. Medical test tomorrow. Exclusive story confirmed. Jack, first of all, you sad to see Reguilon go. Look, I just want to point out just quickly as well, the reason why Brentford are bringing in Reguilon on loan to the end of the season is they're in a relegation battle and they've lost Rico Henry now between now and the end of the season, so they need to fill up that left back spot and bring someone else in and stuff like that. So that's why he's going there from Brentford's point of view. But Jack, would you have kept him around from Tottenham's point of view, as a backup to someone like Destiny Udogie? Do you think this could be a mistake?
Yeah, I sort of pointed out on Twitter that I think this was a good move for Brentford. I'm not totally sure if it's a good move for Spurs. It's a good move for Reguillon. Like, he gets an opportunity to get a lot of playing time, gets to feel like he could be a real valued member of that squad, and perhaps even increase his own sort of transfer market value or just value in general if he gets to play well and play a lot over this period. But for Spurs, like, I'm still left with the same sort of question of like, who actually fills in for Destiny Udogie in at least some sort of effective or competent manner. It doesn't have to be nearly as good as Udogie, but needs to be in some way, not detracting from the squad if he were to step in. And Emerson, I think, has done a fine job trying to fill in. But once again, like, you are asking, I think, a lot of him to try to play that sort of left back inverted role. And he's had good games, and then he's had some average games or not so good games sort of in it. It's been sort of back and forth. And then I would say with Ben Davies, like, I mean, I think he's sort of just better suited if he is going to stay. I don't exactly feel like he totally needs to. I don't know. It's just left back. He just had one of the worst ever performances I've seen in a Spurs shirt in a while in that Crystal Palace game in that first half. It really was dreadful. He showed that he could not play that position in anywhere close to how Destiny Udogie can. He actually showed to be clearly a lot better at actually the left-sided center back position than he really is in the left back position. So I'm a little confused or worried really about who actually fills in at left back. I'm not considering Ryan Sessegnon because he's been a ghost all season and the guy
Well, we'll
barely
get
can
on to him in a while.
Maybe so. So yeah, I won't do too much, but yeah, the guy can barely stay fit, and I don't rate him on a technical level. Also with Reguillon, just quickly, maybe lastly, Dave, even if he isn't really meant for this Postecoglou system, I do think he's not as bad of a player as some people have made him out to be. Like, he does have a good attacking input. Like, he has a good cross on him. If I'm not mistaken, his assists sort of as a left back or as a fullback aren't really all that really shabby, like as sort of a fullback over his career. he's had good years, like, I think under Jose, where he did, show to be a good attacking sort of fullback. And I don't know, like, I think he has
Mm,
his issues defensively. You can get after him, you can't make him,
mm,
you can't force him into mistakes. And he's not
mm,
always the most consistent in the one-on-ones, but I don't think he's as
mm,
bad of a player as some people have made him out to be. I think he would have been useful for the rest of this season
mm,
personally. And like I said earlier, when it comes to attacking and when it comes to actually going forward, I actually think Reguillon is quite useful.
mm, mm. Do you know what? I agree, Jack. For me, I'd have more confidence with Reguilon stepping in, say, for instance, than Young. We've seen at times this season when Adoji has been out and Davies has been fit, Davies stepped in there. That wasn't the answer either. So for me, I would have rather sort of keep him around for a backup to Destiny Adoji. However, now that we've got Dragusin in, it does give you the option if you want to push Van de Ven out there if Adoji's not fit and stuff like that. Look, with Reguilon, I actually think from a Spurs point of view, it's more a case that the guy's just never, ever really fit. Since we've had him here, I thought he was absolutely brilliant under Jose Mourinho. He done all right under Conte. Unfortunately, he just couldn't finish some of the chances that were put on a plate for him, even though he's a fullback. I think it's hard to sort of, especially because not all fullbacks are Trent Alexander-Arnold and Porro, right? They're not all going to have, be able to shoot a ball like a striker. But I do think a lot of it is down to how fit the guy is. He's always sort of injured. He's been unlucky as well. He had that loan move to Atletico Madrid. I believe he went for surgery
Yeah.
and ended up picking up an illness that really sort of hampered
Yeah.
him. United fans were actually disappointed. They wanted to keep him. They actually thought he was all right from some of the United fans that I was listening to. What I will say is as well, he's another one. He's got a year and a half left on his contract. So that's why I would have rather an obligation to buy within that for Brentford. However, if he goes there, plays well, it keeps his resale value. And hopefully then we can sort of cash in on him in the summer and, up our transfer kitty. But look, what Sergio Reguilon, he's one of them. I wish him well.
Yeah.
It's not like he's ever sort of really had a bad attitude. You never really heard any reports of any of that about him. He's just plagued by injury, really. And so I wish him the best of luck at Brentford, and hopefully he does well. We'll take a few comments. So I know some people are disagreeing with us here, Jack. We have this one from King Hoddle already, where he says Reggie will not make it under Edge, even as a squad player. He isn't robust enough to fit the system and intensity of our play, and I doubt we would be able to invert effectively. Look, I actually think he has attributes. He's quick. I actually think he's okay enough on the ball as well. I think he does have attributes where he could slot in. Of course, it'd be a bit of a drop off from what we're seeing with Destiny Adoji, maybe defensively wise as well. And look, Ange did give him an opportunity. Let's be honest about it. He gave him an opportunity pre-season. Did he grab it with both hands? I wouldn't say so, and that's probably where that decision was made, King Huddle. Jacob also says, Jack, glad he's gone and seen him and wasn't impressed, hence why we didn't want him here, even as a backup. He's just not good enough.
Yeah, I could see how he's maybe not good enough for the future or anything. I just think like as a useful left back, backup for Udogie for the next 6 months, I think he's actually better than all the candidates we have available. I think he's better than Ben Davies as a backup left back and as a left back in general. And I think he's better than the likes of Sessegnon. And then with Emerson, perhaps it's a toss up, but I don't know. Like I think he is better than basically the candidates we have available. And it seemed like we're going to try to get away with not having really any real backup left back of any kind, this season, where it just felt like Reguillon could have maybe just stayed for this year.
Yeah, that's it. Just this season up until the summer, Look, I'm just putting it out there and pre-warning anyone. Big up Lucas Wells. Best of luck to Sergio. Hope we can get a fee for him in the summer. I think that's ultimately the plan on that. But look, I'm just warning everyone. If Davies fills in at left back and he costs me a game, or Ryan Sessegnon fills in at left back and he costs me a game of football, I'm going to absolutely lose my shit. And I will come out and say we should have kept Sergio Reguilon as a backup on that regard. Paul Markey says, sorry, guys, I only rate French league players as championship standard. Where I look is a young centre midfield from River Plate, Coletta. Just quickly on that, Paul Markey, and I'll let Jacko in on it then. Look, I do get what you're saying. I'm very, very, very hesitant to go into the French league and pick up players, You look at some of the players that have got big money moves to the Premier League at other clubs, Pepe, people like that, never really worked out. You look at some of the guys that we've signed from there, Ndombele, big fee, never worked out, and Kudu and G, people like that, players with potential that never really fulfilled it. So I'm very, very hesitant to go in there. However, I really do rate this lad, and he also comes from good stock. His father, Lilian Thuram, the great Lilian Thuram, is his father. So there's definitely a footballer in there. Let's not forget when they rocked up here to play us in a friendly. I think it was it just before Christmas last year underneath Antonio Conte. He absolutely wiped the floor with our midfield. Wiped the floor with them. He was too big. They could not handle him. And I've sort of tracked them since, and I really think he's got the potential to take the next step. Dermo, why are you ringing me when you know I'm live? You've seen I was live, so why are you ringing me? But Paul Markey, my man, 100% lad. I would definitely take a look at Kefram Turin, but I understand what you're saying. Jack, Coletta, do you know much about him? I know this is right up Paul Markey's expertise. He sits there and watches the Argentinian league.
No, this is a cultured man when it comes to his football watching, and I am not familiar with Coletta, sadly, Paul Markey, but River Plate, I must say, a club that recently has been, I believe, especially just the Argentinian league, maybe more would stretch in general, is producing, some players, some real young talents, just in general, like South America. I think it's always been, a destination for a lot of clubs to go after young talents, but it does feel like maybe perhaps Fabrizio Romano is just working more and more and more. But I don't know, like these transfers out of South America just seem to be happening at sort of much more of a regular basis than I can remember, and sort of maybe more so players kind of straight from sort of the whatever league they're coming from or wherever country they're coming from at such a young age, like straight into a huge club and a huge league. So just shows that maybe there's another sort of revival or another sort of, golden generation from various countries. And I could say that that's true, like with Ecuador, with even Argentina coming through with a lot of brilliant players. Brazil as well is kind of looking for building a new sort of generation. So perhaps there's that young generation of new South Americans to tap into. And French league players, listen, I mean, Spurs have been unlucky, except in the case of Pop Matasar, like someone pointed out. But I mean, even Bruno Guimaraes came from Liga. So if you get it right, you get it right. But it is true that you get some pretty big flops as well.
I believe City are looking at a guy from there, Steve or whatever you want to call him. They're looking at a guy pulling them from the Argentinian league as well. But big up, Paul Markey. Let us know why you think he should come in here. What attributes has he got? Just quickly take this from me. I'll be honest, I'm not playing these silly buggers today. You can trust Ange and you can still have an opinion on what's going on at the football club. Because basically, the way I see it, if you trust Ange like you said, then, should we have opinions on any of the news then? You know what I mean? I'm not playing these silly bugger things. I can trust Ange and still have an opinion. And it does, just because you trust Ange, it doesn't mean he's going to get everything 100% right either in that regard. But look, we'll move on from Sergio Reguilon to Brentford, onto Ivan Perisic. Now, this came from Fabrizio Romano. He done a stream with Kick Streaming, and they sort of we're asking him about transfers and stuff like that, and whether or not Ivan Perisic will play again for Tottenham Hotspur. And basically, this is what Fabrizio Romano had to say back. My answer is no. I don't think Ivan Perisic is going to play for Tottenham anymore in his career. Because of the injury, of course, but also because Hajduk Split are still dreaming of Ivan Perisic as a January signing. So they are going to push this week, next week, to make the deal happen. Hajduk won Ivan Perisic, so there's still a chance for Perisic to leave Tottenham in the January transfer window. But in any case, it's 99% guaranteed that Ivan Perisic is not going to play for Tottenham anymore. Just a bit of background on that as well, and we'll bring Jack in and get his thoughts. He is Tottenham's second highest paid player currently on the roster at 180k a week. Only son is paid more than him. I would argue that he's 34 now as well, off the back of an ACL. What level is he going to come back? And for me, I do think we're probably at the point where we should look to maybe offload these wages at this point. I sort of said it in the summer. He done well, and it's a shame, to be honest with you, because he would actually suit Ange's system. We could actually really do with someone like him right now, especially with how good he is at crossing the ball. It's one of our biggest weaknesses now. No one can really put the ball in with any sort of great effect, so we could actually do with him. However, it'd be interesting to see what Ivan Perisic wants, whether he wants to leave. I know there's been rumors about it for quite some time between the summer and up to now. For me, I think it makes sense if there's a willingness on Perisic's behalf to, mutually agree to terminate the contract and allow him to do something with Hajduk Split and allow him to go home and finish off his career. That's where I'm at with it. I think them wages can definitely be reinvested somewhere else. Jack, where are you at with Ivan Perisic potentially on his way out the door?
I think we knew it from the get-go. I think when we did the scout report um on Vuskovic when he had signed, there was like kind of a bit of this random tweet that I had sort of seen right before I recorded it that had said that part of that deal kind of meant that Perisic sort of was potentially out the other way or headed the other way, and
Mm,
that's how sort of Spurs were able to get ahead sort of in the negotiations, ahead of so many other big clubs on that sort of transfer. And I think this is all part of it. A bit of background as well. Like I remember that, sort of striker Nikola, I think his name was Kalinic, that guy who had he played in Serie A for a long time.
oh yeah,
Kalinic,
yeah.
he, I think, has gone recently to Hajduk Split to play there and sort of help them potentially win the Croatian league, ahead of Dinamo Zagreb. There's actually a good chance they could be able to do it this year. So he's actually gone to Hajduk Split, and I think Perisic might be joining him as well to perhaps, get a real title steal this year. That's what
Mm,
I've heard.
mm, mm. Look, I think it makes sense as well. You don't want this headache come the summer when you want to be able to bring in players. You want to be able to put yourself in a position where you can attack that market nice and early, get them in here, and sort of hit the ground running and get everyone in here before preseason and give Andrew full preseason to work with them. So I think that would be in view of maybe looking to make that happen as well. Absolutely spot on there, Jacko. So that's it on Ivan Perisic. Guys, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on it. Luke Mayo says, agree, Dave, shame, but make the business move and get the wages off. Yeah, it's huge wages he's on. Shamu also says, high wages, yes, but zero transfer fee. He chipped in massively with assists. Look, 100%, I get that, but he's
Great
30
impact,
years
though.
of age off the back of an ACL injury. What sort of resale value is? And even if you do take a fee, no club's gone off from the 170k a week or anywhere near it. So it makes the deal very sort of complicated to do if there's a fee involved and trying to meet Perisic's demanding wages, signing on fee, etc. like that. So I think it just makes sense, like we done with Hugo Lloris, right? He had 6 months left on his contract, basically mutually agreed to let him go for free, basically. There's very little resale value there. He's come in, he's done his job. He provided a lot of assists last season and that, and he's done well. Just shame. I really like Perisic, actually. I really did like Perisic. And I know Jacko was loving having another itch, but you do have to take into account, 34, can he get back to any of them levels after an ACL? So big ask. And then, guys, this is the last bit of news, and then we will let you off. By the way, if anyone, is keeping up to date with the under-18s in the FA Youth Cup, which is a huge game for them tonight, update me in the score on the chat, please. That'll be awesome. So basically, we start off. This is basically a couple of updates from Alistair Gold over the last couple of days. THFC continue to be linked with Calvin Phillips, with the 28-year-old set to leave Man City. However, Spurs are not looking to make a move for the England international at this time. Jack, do we read into them last words at this time? Is this something that they're looking at it now going, we'll wait till the summer, we'll probably get him cheaper?
I feel like Spurs, they've been linked with him so many times that I just don't know if it's ever going to happen, type of thing. Perhaps it's one of those players that Spurs have been linked with in the past, and it's been kind of re-engineered again via Postecoglou. It could be the case that Ange does like him. I just don't see it happening personally, Dave. And that might be a relief to you as well, because I know you've kind of from the get-go didn't really, even when he had his sort of best spell at Leeds, I kind of think you said, pretty much everybody, let's put a little caution to this. He's not as good as what he looks, or
Yeah.
as he's not as good as maybe people might say he is.
Like, the thing is, right? We're trying to get to Man City's level. Are we there yet? No. But if Calvin Phillips can't make it at City and all that's really required of him to do is be very, very technical, well, we're also looking for very, very technical players. What makes you think that he's going to come in here and hit
Spot on.
to do it for Tottenham Hotspur? For me, I just don't. I don't like it. Again, I understand why Calvin Phillips made that move to Man City, but if he's really protecting his own career, would he have made that move knowing the standard of midfielders ahead of him? I don't think so. The warning signs were there when they brought Fabian Delph to the club. Barely ever really played for them, just used as a homegrown pawn. And Calvin Phillips was okay with that. For me, look, you might get a player with a point to prove. I just don't think he's good enough. Even when I watch him for England, when he has played for England, he just slows everything down. He's a new Harry Winks, 5 yards to the left, 5 yards to the right. You know, at times it looks like he's doing the cha-cha side. He's not even participating in the game. I definitely don't want him at Tottenham Hotspur. I think there's better options out there for sure. Big up Bob Bean Counter as well. Great to see you in. Also, Tottenham have shown an interest in Norwich winger Jonathan Rowe, but at this moment have not made a move for the versatile 20-year-old who has scored 12 goals and provided 3 assists in 28 matches this season. Look, then numbers there, combined with his age, is exactly why there's a whole host of clubs going to Norwich games right now, looking at this kid. This is a kid that when they were in the Premier League, I believe he made 12 to 15 appearances off the bench. They sort of went back down then to their underage team, got his chance in the Championship this season, and has not looked back. He's a winger. I believe he can play either side as well. But Jack, you know, any interest in this guy? You know, for me, I think personally, you look at Brennan Johnson, right? Ripped it up in the Championship, had a good season in the Premier League last season. But that step up, it just goes to show, even from the bottom half of the Premier League to the top half, how big that step up is, especially what's required of you on a consistent basis. Are you maybe happy that we're not pulling the trigger on this one? I think this would be more a summer move if we go for it anyway, personally.
Seems like much more of a summer move. I wouldn't even advise Mr. Rowe here to move to Spurs in the winter. I don't think that would be a good move for him. I think he should continue where he is, continue to develop, ride out this great season that he's clearly having, and potentially, if he feels like he's worth the step up into, you know, a much more different sort of atmosphere and environment where he's not going to be picked week in, week out. He's going to have to pretty
Mm,
much battle it out for any sort of minutes, you know, at all really in the team. Is he if he thinks he's ready for that, then clearly with those numbers, you know, he's having a terrific season. He's very young and talented. Me
mm,
personally, I would have to see a bit more. Not like saying he's done anything wrong or anything, but personally, I just think like to see how he finishes the season. Like to see,
mm,
you know, how the stats improve for him, and
mm,
at you know maybe later on would look at him as an interesting option as a homegrown sort of replacement for whoever in the attack
mm,
might leave. You know, in case maybe we don't end up signing
mm,
Timo Werner, or in case Brian Hill leaves, or other players from sort of the attack end up leaving, you know, he would be a decent homegrown replacement of some sort. And
mm,
this does look to be maybe more around Johan Lang's sort of kind of you know, category, kind of, you know, in his
mm.
sort of expertise as well.
Well, Jack, actually, that's something that me and you sort of really highlighted, right? We brought him in here specifically because of his homegrown recruitment at Aston Villa. How solid their homegrown list when they submitted to the Premier League actually is, and it's a massive part when you combine with a lot of the foreign signings that they brought in that have hit the ground running. That's why they are up where they are right now. Our homegrown side, however, is absolutely in tatters. It's absolutely decimated. And look, you're seeing us being linked with a lot of names. Adam Wharton, that guy at Middlesbrough, what's his name? Hackney. You know, there's a few other guys that we've sort of been monitoring and keeping an eye on. And I definitely think that is Johan Lang. And let's get real for a minute. You look at when Aston Villa signed some of their players, Matty Cash, people like that. You know, they signed them from Championship clubs. They've developed them, and now they're in their first team. I think this is something Spurs are looking at with Ali Go's last sort of bit of news here, where he says Tottenham will continue to explore opportunities for young stars on the rise with potential loan back deals. Now, this is something I want people out there tuning in now. We're only going to be about another 5 or 10 minutes. You know, put in the comment section, do you think this is something Spurs should continue to pursue? Or would you like to see, you know, the first team at its strongest first, especially if we're going into Europe next year, and that money being used to gear us towards being able to challenge on all 4 fronts? Once we've done that, then maybe you could potentially look at that. You'd also argue, look at some of the signings that we've tried to do this with over the last few years. Session, Jack Clark, Joe Roden, people like that. They haven't worked out. And we had a long problem. We have a long problem trying to get rid of Session, problem trying to get rid of Joe Roden, although I do believe Leeds are actually trying to strike some
Yeah,
sort of
he's
deal
played well
with
enough.
Tottenham. Yeah, because he's been absolutely brilliant. He won their Player of the Month last month as well. But it's not something we've done well over the last few years,
No.
Jack, and we sort of wasted money that could have helped us develop that squad even quicker.
No, totally true. And honestly, I sort of this sort of signing for me as well, and just sort of signings in general when it comes to these sort of younger stars. require us to end up getting rid of, some of the failed homegrown English signings that we brought in the past. Jed Spence is actually sadly going to be one of them as well. He sort of joins that list of failed homegrown sort of young star signings, and Sessegnon is one of them. Joe Rodon's one of them. Luckily, we were able to move off Jack Clark. Plenty of these guys, So I hope Lang is able to get us in a much better place when it comes to it.
100%. And look, I suppose that's something we have to take into account when we're sort of analysing this, right? That we do have a new guy that's sort of tasked, really, like we believe, to come in here and really hit that homegrown core. And it's not the guy that was maybe identifying them sort of beforehand. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that regard. What are people saying here? My chest infection is getting worse, guys. It really is. I need to get something for it. What are people saying? James Fox says some good young players in the championship. And look, for me, I think the lower leagues is really where the value is with these homegrown players. We've tried to get someone at Premier League standard. It cost us 50 million, and we're not getting enough bang for our buck out of that deal. So the only other option with the inflated prices on homegrown players now is to try and hit the championship, get them for your 15, 20 million, and try and develop them. Look what we done with Dele Alli all them years ago, 5 million, lower league. What was it, League One or something we brought him out of, and he hit the ground running.
Yeah.
But I definitely think going forward, that's somewhere we need to target, because we can't keep throwing away 50 million here and there and not getting much bang for your buck back, right, Jack?
No, definitely can't. And I think you're dead on about that. We actually should be going after players in the lower leagues who are clearly going to be breakout talents at some stage. Just see if we do our homework and, identify them, before they have those breakout sort of kind of seasons in the Premier League or whatever, and they end up costing a fortune. So completely agree. Even just recently, I randomly, not saying we should go after this guy specifically, but when I watched Wigan versus Man United, there was that one player for Wigan, I think Ainu or whatever his name was absolutely tearing them apart. And he seemed to be at a really young age, like 18.
Is that young winger?
Yeah, young winger who created a lot of chances for them. And he's under 23. He looked terrific.
He's on loan from Fulham.
And I don't know, that would be an example, right? Go after guys in sort of League One, League Two, Championship that are sort of around that bracket that are just waiting to be picked up.
Yeah. Completely agree with you. It's the only way of not really getting burned, going for homegrown players. Guys, I'll hang around for a couple of minutes if anyone wants to throw in any questions or that for myself, or Jacko, just quickly. I'm also going to put Mia's link in here. She's about to go live as we're at. So if you do want, sorry, one second, Jesus Christ. So if you do want more content, now that myself and Jack are going off to maybe watch West Ham be beaten in the FA Cup, because I do believe they're losing at this moment in time, head on over to Mia and see what she's at today talking about. Jack's put it actually in there for you guys. So guys, just quickly, any questions or anything like that before we end off? I'm going to give you a minute or two. I'm just going to piss about speaking to myself unless you don't get any in. Jack, just quickly, I suppose, while we wait to see if there's some one or two questions that come in. Do you think Spurs will do any more business this window? Because it is a window that has been very, very quiet. I think Dragusin is one of only 2 permanent signings that have been made by Premier League clubs so far this window. And I have no doubt a lot of it is to do with the financial fair play rules. It's starting to maybe really sort of cripple clubs at this moment in time, the more that the Premier League is sort of focusing down on it and getting more and more sort of stringent with it. Do you believe Tottenham will sign anyone else between now and the end of this window? Oh, your mic, Jack.
Sorry, I have myself muted. I think Spurs are sort of in the sell bracket right now than they really are in the buy bracket. I do think they will try to buy another midfielder. Whether they will end up doing that successfully or not, I think is dependent on sort of deals that could be made for various players in the squad that free up, non-homegrown spots or homegrown spots, like getting rid of Sessegnon. They're looking to do. Like I said earlier, potentially Brian Hill could be headed out as well. Sergio Reguilon, Højbjerg is somebody that I think Ange, seems to want to be able to keep using. But Højbjerg plays and has been playing like I think he has one foot out the door. So if he goes, we would definitely, I think, look to get a midfielder. I think it's really just dependent on outgoings. And Spurs seem to be in more of a position now where they're not going to really rush to get rid of, I think, any of these guys. Maybe in the case of Sessegnon, potentially they might, because he's just offered nothing in the span of multiple years. But I don't know, Dave. Like, I think they might be in that sell category right now. And then if there's time left in the window, they'll try to bring in that midfielder.
Oh, actually, just have to spark my memory just quickly, Jack. Last bit of news, I didn't make a graphic for it because it was so small. It was hard. But apparently, from the Football Insider, I don't know how much of that you want to believe, but Spurs are ready to listen to offers for Bryan Hill, Ryan Sessegnon, and Sergio Reguilon. Now, Sergio Reguilon is already on his way out on loan. Sessegnon, I've no doubt, is on the market. Bryan Hill has already turned down a move away from the club this January, so we'll wait and see what happens in that regard. Just quickly, Farrell 27, is Højbjerg still trying to leave? Look, I sort of said this, before the Middlesbrough game, that I believe it's of my belief that Ange Postecoglou and Højbjerg had to sit down, spoke about committing himself here up until at least the end of the season. But Højbjerg, he's trying to look. He wants to get out, play first team football. He's also got a Euros, in the summer as well. So I think on Højbjerg's sort of behalf, he is sort of. It's been said that if there's a move there for him, he wants to take it. So interesting on that. Dave and Jack, your first choice middle tree. Look, I'm going to save mine because, like I said, I'm actually going to put out a stream about that. What is Tottenham's first choice 11 when everyone's fit? No doubt you guys can slot me in the comments for my choices. But Jacko, what's your first choice midfield tree if everyone was fit?
I'd go. I'd go Bentancur, Sarr, Maddison, but I'd really be convinced, and that sounds crazy not to say Basuma, Bentancur, Maddison. To be fair, Kulusevski is also somebody you want to work in there in that midfield because he's great and he is an extra sort of dynamic that someone else, doesn't bring with that ball carrying and sort of that strength and everything. But I'm sort of leaning towards Bentancur, Sarr, Maddison. Maybe Basuma sneaks in there and pushes Sarr out, but that would feel harsh with how good Sarr has been this season.
Look, I think that's a very good midfield tree, Jack. I think three great options. And you got to remember, yes, everyone wants to put the flair players in there, but you have to have someone that's going to be that workhorse. And that's exactly what Papamata Sarr is. So there you go on that King Huddle. Just quickly, big up to Roy Viking, big up to Paul Markey as well, guys. Really do appreciate the support. We understand it's very tough for everyone. Everyone's waiting for the end of the month, aren't they? So I really do appreciate you guys supporting us. Also, appreciate all you guys for tuning in as well, smashing the like button, vibing with us for this last hour as well. Big yourselves up, guys. Make sure you do head on over to Me and Now Spurs Between the Lights. Jack did put the link in the chat. She's going live now, so head over there, get in the chat and support her. It's hard when you're streaming on your own, so make it a bit easier for her. But look, that's it from us. I would say to you guys, go and enjoy your evening. Hopefully stay safe. That's the main thing. Don't do anything too wild. Don't do anything myself and Jack wouldn't. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. If you are looking for anything else from us, I've got put out 2 pieces of brand new content. I'm basically just testing the waters. Every Monday, I'm going to be putting out a loan player update. Like I said, I think it's vital that we keep up to date with players that are loaned out, some that are, looking to develop and get their way into the Tottenham squad, and some that we need to perform well so we can keep the resale value and try and gain some cash for them. So, I'll be updating you on how they're getting on at their clubs on Monday. The first one was put out there. Go and check it out. And also, on Tuesday, I'm going to put out an academy update, basically letting you know how the under-21s and the under-18s are progressing, player development, players you need to be looking out for, and any sort of major news around the academy that I think you should know. And I think it's important because although the first team have a chance of success this season, under-21s are top of their league by 6 points with a game in hand, and under-18s are also top of their league by 2 points as well. So there's a chance for success right throughout the age groups. So if you could please check that out, let me know in the comment section underneath whether you vibe with it, whether you don't. And also, if there's anything you think that I'm missing that I could be a genius, add to it and make me look absolutely unbelievable as a content creator. But that's it from me. I'm going to shut up now because my cough is I'm going off to get some medicine. Jack, anything you want to say to the army before we let them go?
No, good to see everybody tuning in. Thank you so much for all the support, everybody who's tuned in today. Good to see Chris. Good to see Bald Bean Counter, Shawnee Maddox, Hair King Hoddle, Lazy 8, Sebas, all the people. Ash was in here earlier, all the regulars. And Chris, I'm going to need some time actually over these next few weeks to just, cope with the fact that I don't have anybody that I can use as my usual scapegoat anymore. My OG scapegoat and Eric Dyer is now gone. I now have to think harder, really, Chris. And so that's actually more of a pain for me. Now I have to think harder when I'm looking for who to blame in a game. So it's going to be a difficult one, but really do appreciate all the support, everybody. And look forward to all the content Dave is prepared for you guys tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow, guys. Come on, you Spurs,
Come
in
on,
the
you
mighty hands,
Spurs.
Postecoglou. We trust. We never stop.
We never stop. Big Ange, we trust. See you, everybody.